So without further ado, Eric Su is a CEO and founder of ClickFunnels and Single Grain. We'll be talking about evergreen growth tactics. So Eric, the stage is yours.
Perfect. Thank you for having me, Matic. Nathan always does a good job. Everyone, make sure you check out Deal or Bust. It is one of the shows I look forward to watching every single week. I learn a lot from it. And Founder Path, amazing service that he's put together. I just think, a lot of things that he says just makes a lot of sense. It's like you're looking to build a business, build it for yourself. You know what to do with it. And, go raise the capital and then put money into the formula that you have that works and then scale it faster, right? So what I'm going to do is for the next, I guess I have you for the next 25, 30 minutes or so. I'm going to talk fairly quickly and try to get through as much as I can. And I'm still recovering from a little bit of a sickness right now, so I might be a little off. I don't sound how I usually sound, but really excited to always talk to the SaaStock crowd. Haven't been to Slovenia before. I hope to visit one day. And let me go ahead and just share my screen. So let me share my screen right here. And let's go ahead and do this. If you guys can see me right now, type. If you guys can hear me, see me okay, just type 1 into chat and you guys can see my screen. I want to make sure everything is working. And I'm going to go ahead and hit present. Hello, Gabriel. And Eva, thank you. Ziga, thank you. Doman, thank you. We're going to make this a good session. We know it's 9 p.m. right now. You got to get to networking next. But you guys are bringing it. So I'm going to try to bring it as much as I can. All right. So here we go. So what I'm going to do today is I am going to talk about a couple of timeless, tested growth marketing principles that will guide you through the time. So, the stuff that Nathan just talked about, raising the capital. Okay, so let's say you go get 100 grand right now, or you get 200 grand or whatever. What are you going to actually do with that, right? So, what tactics are you going to deploy on? And I'm going to share with you kind of what's been working, because what I tend to do is I tend to experiment a lot when it comes to marketing in general. So as Matic mentioned, my name is Eric Su. I own an ad agency called Single Grain, and I have a company called ClickFlow. I have operators that run both of those companies. On my end, I just like to nerd out on marketing and then talk about, look for different deals that are out there and just create content and just learn from, people such as yourselves and share as much as I can. So I have on the very right side, there is a podcast that I do called Marketing School. And Marketing School is a daily marketing podcast I do with another marketer named Neil Patel. And I also have another podcast called Leveling Up Now. That one is actually more so where I talk to founders, a lot of SaaS founders, a lot of authors as well. And then here are the two companies. So the very first thing I want to ask you as I kind of jump around here is, what do you think is the number one factor to success with your ads, right? Is it your click-through rate? Is it your conversion rate? Is it your cost per click, cost per acquisition, customer acquisition, spend? It could be something else. What do you think is the number one factor to success with your ads? And this is a question that applies to just all marketing across the board, right? What do you think is the number one factor to success with your ads? Let me check what you guys are saying in chat real quick. Let's see. Customer acquisition. Hannah says customer acquisition. What else do you guys think? The number one thing. ROI. Liam, good to see you. The message. Okay, it's a good answer. Rock says cost per acquisition. Okay, so we got a couple good answers here. So by far, if you look at ClickFunnels, which is a company that does over $150 million a year, number one thing that they do well is they're creative, right? So check this out over here. If you look at Russell Brunson over here, this is the Facebook ad library. It's a free tool to use. You can see how much new creative he's pumping out. So 630 results over here. So, Liam's answer when he talks about the message, the creative, whatever you want to call it, that is actually what matters. Because if your creative is not good, you're not going to be able to drive clicks through your ad and then drive them to your website at a cost-effective number, right? And so not enough people, when they think about SaaS, they're like, oh, all I need to do is, throw up some Google ads, throw up some Facebook ads, and then, that's it. They don't think about the art and the craft and the science behind what actually goes into good marketing creative. When you got a guy like Russell Brunson, who's always cranking out new videos over here, new angles, new offers, that's what it really takes to be successful. Because oftentimes in these feeds, what you're seeing is they're scrolling, there's banner blindness, people get tired of, whatever was a really smart creative yesterday is probably today's standard, right? It's today's normal. So what you got to think about is, how can you pump out new creative over and over and over? How can you create a system that works for you? Because once you have a good creative, your cost per click is going to go cheaper. Your cost per cost per acquisition is going to be lower, right? So actually, no, what I was saying earlier is your cost per click is going to be lower, right? So you are going to be able to scale much better across the board. People don't think that way, right? Oftentimes it is the creative at the end of the day. All right. So just to show you a couple more examples here with ClickFunnels, look, he's got a cookbook over here. I remember before he was sending out like an MP3 player. He's got these new habits for success. He's got cartoons over here. He's got different bundles of different courses that he's had in the past, and he just keeps trying new things, new offers. And I remember when I had him on the Leveling Up podcast, he was saying, like, not only is he rotating out new creatives all the time, but he's rotating out offers all the time too, because one offer that performed really well maybe last month might not be relevant anymore. So usually throughout 1 year, he's rotating out through 6 different offers, right? So think about what you can do from a creative standpoint, and also how can you change up your offer just a little bit so your audience is constantly getting something new from you. And then when they think of you, they think of, Matic or Nathan or whoever, you guys are pumping out new creatives all the time, and they look forward to seeing what you have to make. All right. So that's on the creative side. And I'm going to give you a couple resources, but I also want to marry the two. You have creative, but you also have copywriting as well. So, people will be like, oh, when I look at some of the SaaS companies out there, they write like, the ad copy might be really bland and boring and say like, better document storage for you, right? And like that's it. And that's their definition of running Facebook ads. What you got to think about is, how can you actually tap into the psychology of your customers, right? So copywriting is important. Copywriting ties in directly with your creative too, because the copy that you're writing can tap into people's emotions, right? Are you thinking about what they're actually interested in? Are they aware of the problem that you might be solving? Are they aware of the deal that you might have for them? Copywriting can help you take them through that entire journey, right? So what I like doing is, when I think about creative or when I think about copywriting, I just like to look at other people's formulas. I don't need to necessarily come up with something from scratch, right? So you can always search for headline formulas. Just simply Google headline formulas out there, and all you have to do is just take a look at this, and it's like, oh, you know what? This is just like an Excel sheet over here. Here's the headline type, 13 ways to benefit. Here's the formula, 13 surefire roads, paths, ways to benefit through your offer. And then here's the example over here, 13 surefire ways to stay energized in the morning, right? And that's all you have to do. You just need to change things up a little bit, look at what resonates with you. And then ultimately what you're trying to do is you're trying to build a library of marketing that influences you, whether it's good copywriting that stops you in your tracks, or good creative that stops you in your tracks, right? You're looking for influence everywhere. You don't need to necessarily reinvent the wheel, right? Here, let's try another one over here. Are you embarrassed by a problem? Are you embarrassed by your small user base? Okay, so let's say on the ad agency side with Single Grain, our job is to help people acquire more customers, right? So very simple question we can ask: are you embarrassed by your small customer base? Are you embarrassed by your lack of your high CPAs, right? Stuff like that, to get people to, again, take an action, click on your ad, come to your website, and then you can do whatever you want with them afterwards. You can retarget them, you can collect the email, whatever you want to do. But the whole idea here is, we're talking about headline formulas, we're talking about creative formulas out there. And what Nathan was just talking about before this was, using capital and plugging it into the formula that you have for your business already, right? So it's all about using formulas over here, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales, whether it's growth, whatever you want to call it. We're all trying to just use formulas, and then that way we can just plug things in and get our businesses to grow faster. All right. So we kind of talked about templates over here. So how prospects can achieve desirable benefit this year. Another example, how SaaS founders can achieve exponential growth this year. Like I mentioned, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. And what I like to do is I like using services like swiped.co. This is free to use. And you can see here are a bunch of different landing pages, long form sales letters that you can just swipe, you can save. And then from there, you can decide, you can go talk to your marketing team, say, hey, I like these elements. I want to put this on my landing page. And then from there, you can actually test it to see if it works better than your control version, right? So there's a lot of these types of websites out there. Swipe.co, they've got inspiration for marketers and copywriters. And you can just pull from this. And this website actually does analysis on different sections of landing pages on why they think it performs better. And then you can just, look at these more and more, right? Draw inspiration, and again, not need to reinvent the wheel. Okay. So the other thing I like doing too is when I'm using Facebook or when I'm using Instagram, I just like saving stuff, right? Stuff that draws my attention. So I know this one piece from Bloomberg over here. Everyone has a wealth number. What's yours, right? That caught my attention because it's unique, right? It's different. It's unique. Some of this other stuff over here, this data visualization, I like this as well, right? And then I have some Facebook ads that I saved over here too. We have a program that actually helps agencies. So it's like someone's agency program caught my eye, so I saved the ad over here. So there's a lot of stuff that I end up saving, and I save it into different collections. So ads that I like, or maybe stuff around social posts or data visualization, that type of stuff. And I'll come back to it later, and then let's say every Monday or so, I'll get with my team and we'll talk about what inspiration we like and what we like to copy or draw inspiration from. And then from there, we're actually off and we're doing stuff, right? We don't have to come up with things from scratch. So another thing I'm going to call out here is when you're writing copy, we're talking about creative, we're talking about copy stuff. What I like to do is I like using a sentiment analysis tool. So you can use Grammarly if you want, or you can just use a tool like this, textprocessing.com. And then I will just go ahead and I'll post the copy in here. And then this sentiment analysis tool will score whether it's positive or negative, right? So generally, when you're looking to write stuff, you want it to be positive. If you're too neutral, if you're too negative, it's not going to perform as well. It's not going to get as much engagement. And engagement is obviously the name of the game when you're posting to these social media platforms, especially when you're running ads. So think about how your ad is coming off, and if you want it to be coming off negative or positive, and just plug it into a tool like this, or you can use Grammarly. And then this is just another check that I like doing when I'm putting copy together. All right, and here are the resources. So in terms of top copywriting books, the number one book I'm going to recommend is it's called Breakthrough Advertising over here. So this book was written in the 1920s. And it's this guy's kind of known as the godfather of copywriting, right? It's human psychology hasn't changed much at all, right? We're still interested in the same things. We still have the same desires. So getting a book like this, which is about probably $125, you can buy it online right now. I bought mine for like $600 before someone bought the rights, and then now they've managed to bring the cost down. So Breakthrough Advertising is a great book. The 16-word sales letter. This is written by a guy that works for a company called Agora Financial, and they do over $1 billion a year in sales. And he's known as one of their best copywriters. I'll check that one out. The Boron Letters, which is by Gary Halpert. And he's also got the Gary Halpert letters as well. He actually wrote this book when he was thrown into prison because his copywriting was so good. He was just using it for not necessarily all the right reasons. So he got thrown into prison. He was writing all these letters to his son. And then Ben Settle over here, he's got a newsletter called Email Players. And that's, it's got great tactics, strategies, and a lot of different stuff that you can use to, again, try to influence people to, bring them to the point of sale and take an action, right? Again, I think, being in the SaaS world for a very long time, and then also marrying it with, a lot of the direct response marketing that I've learned over the years, I think a lot of people are not taking advantage of kind of the two worlds, right? Like, people SaaS marketers kind of look down on, internet marketers, right? And internet marketers kind of look down on anybody that isn't focused on just making money, right? I think there's a lot to learn from both sides. And then if you can marry the worlds together, you're going to have a leg up over both sides, in my opinion. I don't think it's one side's better than the other. I think it's, I'm going to take advantage of smart tactics and strategies from both sides and, do what I can with it, right? It doesn't have to be one or the other. Okay. So as we work towards, work through the slides, there is a tactic here by a marketer named Dean Jackson. So this is called the 9-word email. And let me explain what that is. So the 9-word email, Dean Jackson, he actually said he has a client that sells a 9-figure product, right? These are yachts. And so, if you're like, if you're Liam, for example, and then you come to my website, my yacht website, and you raise your hand and you say you're interested in a yacht, and maybe at that moment I give you a call and you're like, oh, the timing's not right. Well, what I do in 3 months is I send you a 9-word email, and then I'll say, hey, Liam, we talked about, a couple months ago you were interested in a yacht. Are you still interested in a yacht now? Right? So it's a very short email. It's just asking a question. And imagine if you're doing this for your SaaS company. So for ClickFlow, for example, we might say, hey, are you still interested in, our SEO software, ClickFlow? It's as simple as that. People either say yes or no. And, we have, in terms of results that we've gotten, the open rate is about 50%, response rate is about 20%. And we've closed multiple 6 to 7-figure deals just by sending this simple email over here. Hey, name, were you still interested in growing your SEO traffic? Are you still interested in a yacht? Are you still interested in buying a home in Georgia, right? Whatever it is exactly, all you have to do is send a 9-word email, send it every 90 days, and then you're guaranteed, in my opinion, if you have an email list, you should be able to get a couple of deals every single time you do this. And you can just automate this. It's a very simple email to do. Not enough people do this. And guess what? This tactic, it comes from the direct response marketing world, right? You can easily apply this into the world of SaaS just to get a couple more customers. And who knows, it might be a very big whale that can make all the difference in your business. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about is going omni-channel. So, I talked about the podcast that I do with Neil. And actually now we're on track for about 1.5 million downloads a month. So, in the screenshot, it's about 35 million downloads. But the problem with podcasting is this. It's not, when we do a podcast, it does not automatically get transcribed. We don't have written content for it. We don't have video content for it. It's just the audio file that you get, right? And we might push it to, a couple of different channels. So, the main thing for us is when we're creating content, we want to make the most of it, right? Because the problem right now is, our attention split. 1 second we might be watching Netflix, and I might open my phone. I might be on YouTube. Attention is just too split. So they used to say in marketing that to get people to take an action, it's the rule of 7, right? They have to see you at least 7 times to take an action. I would argue that it is now the rule of 14, or it's the rule of maybe 21, where they have to see you 14 times or 21 times to take an action. So just because they hear me on a podcast is not enough. What we do now instead is we want to make the most of the content that we put out there. So yesterday I was recording a podcast with Neil, and when we record, we're on video, right? So, we record for an hour to 2 hours or so, and, we record, let's say 10 to 15 episodes, but those are all now video files, which can go on YouTube. And, obviously they'll go into podcasts as well. But what we'll also do is we'll chop up a lot of the pieces into micro content, and we'll throw it up on Instagram TV, or we'll throw it up on Instagram, we'll throw it up on TikTok. And then, we might even take some of the content and convert it into longer form blog posts, and then we'll promote it out. So this entire process of going omni-channel, we call it content sprouting, right? So we take, one piece of content right here, we sprout it into multiple pieces over here, we promote it, and we monetize it. So instead of just saying, oh, we're going to make one big piece, one video, and that's it, one piece can now become, 15, 20, 30 pieces, 50 pieces, right? Instead of just saying, oh, one piece is one piece. because we want to make the most of what we have. And the name of the game now when it comes to content, if you're producing content, is you want as much reach as possible. That's the goal that you should be aiming for, right? Sure, you can aim for, down funnel type metrics, such as, getting more leads and things like that. But I would argue that, the first thing that you should be focusing on when you're creating content is aiming for reach, right? It's a traffic, it's the number of people that are seeing your content. So that's what you're trying to do ultimately. Focus on getting one channel down first, and then think about how you can sprout it out using a process like this. All right. So, we do this with our YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is called Leveling Up. And what we do is, if you see on the YouTube channel over here, we have this color palette, and it's the same color palette over here. In some cases, we'll take the video and we'll chop it up for our Instagram over here. So we'll make a 10-minute video. Maybe it might become a 1-minute video, and we'll do the same thing over here. We'll take some of these carousels. You can see these are multiple pieces that you can kind of swipe to the left or to the right. And we'll throw this one up on LinkedIn, and it'll get really good reach. Same thing with Instagram as well. But the whole idea here is we are also repurposing it on Instagram. We're also repurposing on YouTube as well. And my team is handling all of this. You can easily find someone on Upwork to help you with this, or Fiverr to help you with this. Again, the name of the game is you're aiming for more reach. Okay. And what we do on our Slack channel is our team reports in on, here's the daily output for Eric, right? And this is from like maybe a year and a half ago. We've since gotten our output to about, I think, 40 or 50 per day. Ideally, we want to get it to a point where we're at 100 per day. But again, the idea here is we're aiming for frequency, we're aiming for reach. And then here, this is like we call it trust but verify. We want to make sure that, we trust our teams doing the work, but we also want to verify that this is actually happening as well. So someone will post this every single day. All right. Cool. So let's see. The final thing I want to talk about is this. And, some of the speakers, I don't know if Dan covered this. I don't know if Nathan covered this. But if you watch Nathan's show, Deal or Bust, there's a lot of great deals on there. You have, it's a great website like microacquire.com. And, when I think about marketing, when I think about, oh, this website has a lot of traffic, maybe they have a lot of leads or so, why not just focus on buying some of these websites, right? Can you grow through acquisitions? And it sounds a lot scarier than it actually is, but it's actually not that bad, right? So what I want to give you is I'm just giving you an introductory kind of formula that you can follow. And hopefully that will kind of plant the seed for you and give you some things to think about. Because a lot of us, we think about, oh, we should just go build everything that we have, right? But there's a lot of assets out there that you can go out there and buy. And I think, this is not just an M&A thing now. I think it's very much a growth thing as well. Okay. So let's use this example right here. Let's say you are a pet SaaS business at about 3 million ARR, and you spend a lot on ads. And you are looking to buy some pet media websites that get over 500,000 visits a month, which is not as crazy as it sounds. And you end up finding a website that's doing about $1 million a year in annual revenue, about $200,000 in profit. Okay. So let's say that, the 200,000, the multiple on that website is maybe 3x on profit. Okay. So the sales price might be $600,000. Well, what you can do is you can put 10% down, and at least in America, you can do this, right? 10% down, so $60,000, and you get the rest financed by the seller. This is just one example of a transaction that you might do, right? I know seller financing, some people are iffy about it. Some people are actually okay with it. But imagine that. You can buy a website that's doing $1 million a year, right, for $60,000 down, get the rest financed by the seller. And, you can do other creative stuff such as this, right? You can say, hey, you know what? I'm not gonna pay you the down payment for about 30 to 45 days. And while I do that, I'm gonna look for some assets to sell from the business. And then I'm gonna use whatever I got from the proceeds to put into the down payment, where I'm effectively putting $0 out of pocket to finance this transaction, right? So there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat here. When you're doing a deal, you have I have the sheet where it's like more than 250 tactics that you can use when you're trying to buy something, right? I'm just saying that you have a lot of possibilities that are open to you. And a lot of people think, this is too complex. This is too hard for me. I'm just going to focus on ads. I'm just going to focus on, what I know. But you're leaving a lot of money on the table by not learning how to do something like this. And I just want to plant the seed to say that this is very possible. Growing through acquisitions is actually a lot faster, which is why a lot more people now are talking about buying SaaS businesses. But I'm saying, on my end, you can also buy growth opportunities or growth. You can basically buy growth, right? Whether it's leads or traffic, you can do that. Okay. So you don't need to be a big, fancy investor to do these types of deals. I know a lot of friends that do it. I'm always looking at deals out there as well. And, it's not as bad as it seems. And you can always walk away if the deal is not a good fit for you. Right. So anyway, I kind of had to go fast today. I'm kind of under the weather right now. I'm not myself completely. So sorry if it's hard to understand me, but you can follow me on Instagram. You can also email me eric@singlegrain.com or hit me up on the Twitters. And I'm happy to answer any questions before we hop off and let you get back to your evening of networking.
Eric, buddy, good to see you, man.
Good to see you, man. It's been a long time.
No, I know. I feel like it was, oh man, generations ago.
It was yesterday. Yeah.
Honestly, for a under the weather person, I felt like you rocketed through that presentation. I took as many notes as I could.
Thank you for that.
But you never know enough. I literally was Googling how do I get breakthrough advertising for less than $350.
You can get it for $125, right? If you Google it.
I didn't quite get to a price that I like just yet. I'm gonna keep looking it up. But if you say it's possible,
you should be able to get it for $125. If there's one book I recommend from at least today's presentation, it's that. So
I'm definitely a sucker for knowledge that's hard to acquire. That's one thing I'm definitely willing to pay for. Man, I guess in our panel earlier we were talking about like what's changed, and I guess my big question for you to kick this Q&A off is what do you think has changed about growing in 2020? Do you think what are you seeing that's changed? New platforms, new channels. You talked a bit about podcasting, which obviously has blown up. I've seen you guys blowing it up very early. What do you think is changing in 2020?
Yeah, I think and thank you, Hannah, thank you, Blendor, and thank you, Andres. So I think, look, SMS is going to get more and more popular. I mean, even with this in the United States right now with the election, I'm getting a lot more SMS spam.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to get abused, and I think we're going to see more regulation for sure. I do think email is making a comeback. You see a lot of people starting Substacks and things like that. So I think one thing that's unique is if you can start an email newsletter that's free and you can start to acquire customers that way, where you can buy emails from like, LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever, get them on your email list, and then you can market them whatever. I think that's a really nifty way to do marketing. And I do, just like I mentioned earlier, I think the growth through acquisitions thing, I think more and more people are going to start to do it once they start to understand that it's not as difficult as it actually is. So
once you wrap your head around the unit economics of buying a lead, and then you wrap your head around, especially in America, because I feel like the game's unfair for acquisitions in the US. We have so many naughty ways of getting financing. That I think, especially for Europeans, you hear it and you're like, oh, what's that? Free money? Well, it's sort of free. Just read the fine print. Yeah. So gang, before we let Eric go and switch over into networking, if you guys want to throw up any questions for him, I know he covered a lot. I saw some people sharing links to books. Matic was running around trying to grab all the links to all the references. If you guys have any questions, throw them up in the chat so we can get as much out of Eric as possible.
Yeah, I think while we wait for some questions to pop up, I think people are always going to be like, "What's the next growth tactic? What's the next growth tactic?" I think and Neil and I actually talked about this when we were recording marketing school yesterday. And it's the only thing that's going to work consistently over time is if you build a brand and you're consistent over, we're talking 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, right? You're out there, you're creating content. I was talking with a guy named Anthony Pompliano, and he's built an audience in the last 3 years. He's got a mega audience, big podcast, couple million listeners a month, big Twitter following. And, I was talking to him, he's like, yeah, I realized that the only thing I should focus on every single day is just creating content. Like, it's the highest leverage thing I can do. Nobody else can copy me. And I build relationships along the way. And I was just like, holy shit, like I should be doing that as well, which is why I'm trying to like offload. And I have offloaded most of the operation stuff. And then there's just people running the companies now. You want to get to that level where you're creating as much of a moat as you can for yourself, because that's what's going to last for the long term.
Yeah. That's a huge point. That's the one that I struggle with a lot. I moved from being strong personal brand to running creative teams. And the hardest part is running into situations where you're like, I think the best thing I could be doing is just nitpicking over copy, but I have a 14-person team, so maybe I shouldn't do that. But that's still what I'm gonna end up doing. Like that's like hard. It's tough, man. It's tough. Yeah. I started this week and I wrote on my to-do list, post every day. That was the only thing I wrote. I was like, it's been too long. It's been a weird year. Post every day.
It's hard. Even when you do have something like that, it's hard to stick with it.
It's tough. Oh, there's a good questions. Yeah, Blender asking about in-house copywriting. Tackle it yourself.
Okay, man. So if you are looking to hire, there's a couple places you can hire copywriters. There's copyhackers.com, pro bloggers job board. Sometimes they actually have good copywriters on there as well. I would say if you're not good at copy, if it doesn't give you energy, don't try to tackle it on your own. And ideally, if you can afford it, you bring a copywriter in-house, because the best copywriters are often the most expensive. And if not, I would just hire a mercenary, right? You can use a company like marketerhire.com. Upwork sometimes has good people there hanging out too. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great, King Gas says a really good point, like the difference between a copywriter and a content marketer. Like we have a great content marketing team because I'm a content guy, so you get really picky. And now we just had to like fold our hand and say our paid acquisition team needs a copywriter. Like we can't be doing that. It's so much nitpicking. It's so different. Like it really splits out. You've got, like, as you said, like this sort of like production house, get good creative out the door, but then you need that team that can run the operations and get that distribution.
Yep.
Oh, that's a great question. So Hannah asked, you talked about testing huge number of offers and ads. How do you monitor and compare all of that? And is that what ClickFunnels does? Yeah,
great question. So ClickFunnels, their marketing team, when I spoke with their CMO a month or two ago, I think it's above 40, 50 people. And what they do is they'll launch different offers and they'll have a project manager for that offer, right? So like we might have like a new, I don't know, like a PDF offer or like an ebook offer or something like that. And Leah might become the project manager for that. And then like we might launch something where I give away something physical, like, I don't know this, right? I don't even know what this is. I don't know, right? But so then I might become the project manager for that. So the idea is that they'll keep launching things, but they'll be like, okay, you're responsible for this, you're responsible for this. And I think a lot of people, whenever they launch things, they just kind of like, it kind of just goes off into the ether and nothing good comes of it, right? So that's how they do it. I would say the way we test our creatives, we have a daily stand-up where we're talking about, kind of the standard stuff, right? What's blocking us, whatever. And then what happens is we actually end up going over the ads. We look at the numbers and we look at what's performing, what's not performing, and we iterate quickly and we'll eliminate ads as we go. So it's a daily occurrence. And then we have a 90-minute meeting on Mondays, which is more in depth, where we'll talk about top performing creatives from last week and what we want to be changing.
Wow, super tactical.
Yeah.
Okay, gang. Well, we're coming up on 39 past the hour, whatever hour it might be, wherever you are. Why don't we give Eric some love in the chat? Eric, thanks for dropping some knowledge bombs. That was amazing.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll invite Matic back up on stage to wrap us up and transition us into networking. Eric, hopefully you'll stick around. and network a little bit with some of our attendees.
I'll try to stick around for a little bit. Not feeling well, but thank you all for having me, and super grateful that you guys stayed up just to hear my voice.